Okay lads, welcome back to another video. The last day we were looking at an introduction to sets, okay? So we were looking at basically what a set is. We learned that a set is a grouping of some sort of objects or numbers or terms, okay? So it's kind of a mathematical way of grouping things together. Now we looked at letters and things the last day, and we ended up listing, say for instance, the counties in Leinster. So you put in brackets the counties spaced with a comma in Leinster, okay? We learned also that for a set to be deemed valid, so for it to actually be a set, it had to be clearly defined. And that means you can't say soccer teams that you think are good, because those soccer teams might not be good in someone else's opinion. So it has to be very factual, alright? It has to be concrete. We also learned that if we have a group of letters or numbers, if the number 5 comes up twice, when you're listing that as an element of the set, which is a member of the set, you only put it in once. So you don't have to repeat the same thing over and over again. Alright, so we're on the bottom of page 74 for today, and we're looking at the element of a set. So underneath your heading for sets, you are going to have your subheading, which is elements of a set. Okay, and like I said, you can see here in the video, it's on page 74. Now, what is an element of a set? Basically, you have a set, an element is a part or a member of that set. Alright, so if you look on the right hand side of the page, you will see they have a set that has a cat, a dog, and a rabbit. Okay, now you will see that they have a set with the cat and dog and rabbit, and the rabbit is a part of the set. Now there's a symbol, the way to write it in this version of the PDF. There's a few mistakes in the book. My one is actually different. They have ways of denoting the symbol to say something is an element or is not an element. Alright, so right over here you have this shape like so. This means it is an element. Okay, so it's part of that grouping. And then you have this symbol with a line through it, which means it is not an element. Okay, now, so you see there, they say that rabbit is not, so you have set A, they say the rabbit is not part of it. That's actually a mistake right here. That is part of it, okay? That should be this symbol with no line through it. That's a mistake in the book. So obviously if you have a cat, dog and rabbit in grouping A, so in the set A, the rabbit is part of it, but the fox is not. Alright, then they have similarly, they have set B is equal to, you put in your brackets, alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you write the members or elements of every set. Okay, 2 is an element. Nearly writing the euro sign. Alright, 2 is an element of B. Yes, why? Because in this set we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, but 8 is not an element of B. Why? Because in this set we only have whole numbers 1 to 4. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. They'll ask you in the set, they'll give you numbers in it. They'll say, is 2 a member of that set? If it is, you put in the is an element sign. If it's not, then you put the element sign with the line through it. That denotes that it's not an element of. It's in the book there now, alright? Now, then we have a set defined by a rule, alright? So you could find it if I asked you to list, right? Set A is equal to numbers 1 to 100. Alright, that would take you ages to write out, so you can kind of come up with a rule. Alright, so you could say A is equal to, open the set, X, line X is numbers 1 through to 100. Alright, now I wouldn't be too worried about this if you don't understand it, but just try understand this, right? If I had to write out 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 100, it would take ages. If I write set A contains x line x, right? That basically means going from x to x, alright, is numbers 1 to 100. You take for granted that then that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so to show you an example there, simply B is whole numbers between 1 and 9. It's just a quicker way of writing out 1 to 9. So some of you might find that a bit confusing. That can be hard to wrap your head around at the start. Don't get too bogged down by that, alright? If you understand that you can pick something out that's either an element or not an element of the set, you'll be going okay, alright? So that's the main thing to learn. If you can understand this rule as a quicker way of writing it, that's fine. If not, don't be worried. Now, there's also a null set, okay? So a null set is a set that contains no elements. This is called a null set or an empty set, alright? So the null set, you can take this down. Null set is denoted. So that means is the symbol for it is denoted either a circle with a line through it or you put 2 brackets with nothing in it, alright? Some people tend to write the null set like this. That's incorrect. Why? Because that means that there's actually 0 in the set. If you have a null set, you put nothing in it or put that circle with the line through it. So hopefully that's clear. Now, where would you have a null set? Gives an example here. The set of men who were 4 meters in height is an example of an empty set or a null set, alright? Why is that? Because there's nobody that's 4 meters on planet Earth, alright? There's no person. It just doesn't exist, alright? Another null set would be people over 150 years old. Alright, that would be a null set. Why? Because there's no one over 150 years old. Alright, it just doesn't exist. Hopefully you understand that so far. So far we've looked. E is, this symbol is an element. The one with the line through it means it's not an element. We've done a few examples of that. Then we looked at set rule, alright? So instead of writing out all the numbers, you can put x to x, that symbol I have here. That means that that's numbers 1 is to 100. If you didn't want to list out all the counties in Ireland, you could do something similar. You could say x to x is the counties of Ireland. Alright. And that would save you writing out the 32 counties. Then we looked at null set. It's wrote 2 symbols. You can have your brackets that you use to write your normal set, or you can have that circle with the line through it. Do not put a bracket with 0 in it. That means there's 0 in the set. And 2 examples of that were men over 4 meters high and people over 150 years old. Alright, so that means they do not exist. They're a null set, they're empty, there's nothing in it. You cannot group them. Okay then, so what I'll get you to do is we're going to practice this then. We're going to have a look at questions. We'll go 1, 2, 3, and we will have a look at question 6 then as well on the next page. Alright, so for question 1, what you have to do, you have to state whether each of the following is true or false. So to say they have a set there 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, you have to say whether 3 is an element or is not an element, or whether it is or is true or false, sorry. So looking at that, 3 is in the set. Is 3 an element of the set? Yes, of course it is. Then to have the next element then, or the next set, to have A, E, I, O and U, which are vowels. They ask, is V an element of that set? No, it is not, so that's false. Alright, that's how we do question 1. Question 2 then, they actually have 3 sets here. They have A contains X, Y and Z. Set B has numbers 3, 6, 9 and 12. And set C has numbers 5, 10, 15 and 20. Alright, there are 3 sets, and what they want you to do is copy and insert the symbol to say whether something is or is not a set of each, or is not an element, sorry, right? So question 1, or part 1 of question 2, they have 3 is either an element or is not an element of set A. So if you look at set A has X, Y, and Z. So is 3 an element of that? No, it's not. So you would write that as 3 is not an element of A, and so on. Question part 2, you would see, is 5 an element or not an element of C? So you go look at set C, you can see, yeah, 5's in that. So 5 is an element of C. Alright, then they ask you to do something very similar as the first one, true or false. They give you more sets. They have set X, Y, and Z. First one contains numbers, second letters, and third one numbers. Alright, so you have to look through that again as well. This is on page 75, and then we'll scan to page 76. Question 6, they ask you to state each or whether the following is a null set. So the set of months which begin with the letter of T. Right? So is there a month beginning with T? The set of men who had landed on the moon. Alright, have people landed on the moon. The set of pupils in class who are under 8 years of age. We know that's a null set. Why? You're in secondary school now. All of you are probably over 12. Alright, so what you have to do, you have to go down through them and state whether they're a null set or an empty set. You can call it either, it does not matter. Alright, so that's your work for today. The next day then we'll be looking at equal sets and subsets. Alright, so if you have any questions, all you have to do is ask me. The work will be put up then for you. All you do is take your picture then and submit it then tomorrow. Alright, or today should be when you have this video. So if you have any questions, just send me a message. Alright, thanks very much.